What is up, everybody? My name is Jerichoholic8704 here with a wonderful video for you. 2020 has arrived. It is January 1st, 2020, the start of a new year, but more importantly, the start of a new decade. The 2020s have started. And instead of looking towards the future, towards the endless possibilities that could come from this wonderful decade, I think the first course of action for the new year is to look back on the previous 10 years of wrestling and determine the top 5 matches of the decade, that being from the years 2010 to 2019. Now, it's very, very interesting when I think about this list because I remember, surfing 2009 YouTube back on my old family desktop. I can vividly, imagine where I was. And let me tell you, I remember thinking back in 2009, holy shit, if I ever start a YouTube channel, I can make this list too, because I was watching tons of, best of the decade from, 2000 to 2009. And, I was watching classic YouTubers, Is Bizarre, Trademark 629, Spinnernet, the classic YWC of the mid to late 2000s holds a near and dear place in my heart. Oh, it truly does. And quite honestly, I am honored to carry on this tradition of, 5 people listening to me, and I can share, my top 5 matches of the decade. What could be better? And as you can see, this list, and I'm sure you can imagine, it was not easy to make, not easy in the slightest, because there have been quite a bevy of amazing matches, and some that I have never even seen. It's gotten to the point now with wrestling that it's kind of ridiculous because there's just so many damn wrestling promotions out there, and you guys know I mainly watch WWE and New Japan, and AEW, of course, but AEW, came so late in the decade, literally within the last year, and I don't think AEW, there are no AEW matches on this countdown, surprise, surprise. I think the best AEW matches I've seen so far were the Jericho-Cody match from Full Gear and the Cody-Dustin match from Double or Nothing. And I don't think either of those matches are, match of the year for 2019, let alone match of the decade contender. But, I looked down at, the little collage that I made for, the opening title card of this video. And we got some classics. We got Shingo Takagi and Will Ospreay and Walter and Tyler Bate, 2 matches, that people herald as, the best of 2019, classic matches, classic wars, really. Both of those matches, quite lengthy, knockdown, drag-out fights, very physical, and honestly, 2 great matches that would deserve match of the year for 2019 and probably match of the decade. I would not argue if anyone said that, 2 classics. And then you have matches like, Shawn Michaels and The Undertaker, back in my little feeble mind. Back in 2010 when I was in 7th grade, it's crazy to think. I remember thinking when I was, a wee lad in 7th grade, thinking by the end of the decade, I would have graduated college. And here I am, a college grad, still in my childhood bedroom. Truly fantastic, to a lesser extent because I'm not paying for it. But, it would be nice to expand my horizons. But in the meantime, I'm here, starting off 2020 with a bang. But back then, I thought Shawn Michaels and The Undertaker, WrestleMania 26, this was better than 25. I don't know if I think that nowadays, but, at the time I did. And I thought, this is surely going to be match of the decade. And here it is on my little collage. And, we have Gargano and Ciampa, the trilogy of matches those guys had. They're probably going to have an even better match this year, but unfortunately, Ciampa got injured. But in my opinion, the first one stands out as the best. Terrific storytelling. And, we also have some underrated classics. We have Jericho and Omega, a dream match come true, an overlooked classic, and Sami Zayn and Neville. I still hold that as probably the best match, or one of the best matches of 2014. Just a classic. Kota Ibushi and Shinsuke Nakamura from Wrestle Kingdom 9. In my opinion, that match was really the match that got New Japan on the map. I understand, with the Omega and Okada rivalry, that really kicked New Japan into a high gear, and 2017 was kind of the year for New Japan for their expansion. But in my opinion, the buzz around New Japan really started. It really started with that Ibushi Nakamura match. Because after Wrestle Kingdom 9, that was the match everyone was talking about, and that's when I saw Wrestle Kingdom all over the internet. And that's when I was like, damn, maybe I should try this shit out. And I also gotten recommendations from other YouTubers. But that match was really the match that put New Japan on the map for Western audiences, in my opinion. And, we also got, how could we forget, Omega and Naito from the G127 finals. Classic matches. All these matches are classics, highlights from the decade, and none of them are on the list. That just goes to show you how truly, truly hard this list was to make, because quite honestly, when I was making the top 5, 1 to 4 were actually pretty easy. And when I say pretty easy, I mean like there was really no deliberation. Like I thought if I was making a top 5 list of the decade, what matches would have to be on? And I instantly rattled off 4. And it was the 5th slot that really, really took a lot of wear and tear on me. All these matches that I presented to you were all, contenders for it. And I'm not going to say these are like numbers 6 through whatever the fuck. I guess it would be 6 through 12. Because, I still don't know fully, or 6 through 14. I don't fucking know. How many matches did I just list? I don't even know. Point is, I'm not saying these are like, the runners up. These are just matches I thought of that would make this list. They would be they're honorable mentions. That would be the better term than runners up. But I've been talking for way too long. We are about 5 minutes into the recording. So let's get on with the official list. So coming at number 5, again, this took a lot of deliberation. And honestly, this match is probably not as technically sound as any of the other matches on this countdown or those, honorable mentions that I listed beforehand. But when I thought about it, when I sat down and thought, fuck it, it's my list, and these are the top 5 matches that I thought were the best in the decade, I was like, then this match is going to be on the list. Number 5, John Cena versus CM Punk at Money in the Bank 2011. Spoiler alert for the rest of the list, this is the only WWE main roster match on the list. And by 2011, I mean the main roster, NXT really wasn't a thing. It was just kind of that crappy reality show that they were doing. But to me, this was the crowning achievement, the magnum opus of the main roster. This encompassed everything that WWE strives for. This is what they want. They have their big star taking on their biggest heel. To me, this was a WrestleMania main event. I always think about that. Just think. 3 months prior, at WrestleMania 27, we had John Cena versus defending champion The Miz. Like, what? Like, you think about that, it's like, holy shit, how far we've come. And, like, when I look back at the decade, the early portion, WWE, like, I know WWE's ratings are tanking. They're in the fucking shitter. I get that, and I understand that Raw and SmackDown are really struggling right now. But my God, 2010, 2011, Raw and SmackDown, holy shit, just the talent pool was dwindling. WWE champion, The Miz. There you go. And then look, I appreciate them trying something with The Miz, but this is not about the WrestleMania 27 main event. This is not about that. I'm getting off topic here. And this is how my videos end up going, 5 years, because I just get off topic. But this is what you want out of a storyline. And this was something fresh. This was something new. As I was saying, in WWE 2011, it was the same guys on top. It was the same formula over and over and over again. CM Punk was not the first person to stand out in the wrestling business with his voice. He wasn't the first person to, have attitude. He really didn't invent the wheel in this scenario, but my God, did he reinvigorate it. This was something we had never seen before, and this was something for a new generation. I was born in 1997. I missed a lot of the Attitude Era. I missed when WWE was at its prime in terms of its ratings and its audience relationship. Like, this was something I had never seen before. And that pipe bomb promo, and I know that's not technically part of this match, but I mean, you have to lump that whole build into this match because what is a wrestling match but a build storyline? And it all kicked off with that pipe bomb promo. I mean, CM Punk announced that, he was going to be leaving on July 17th. And then that pipe bomb promo just completely changed the game. To me, that was probably the most pivotal moment of the decade for WWE. One of them. I would have to think, off the top of my head, top 5 moments of the decade, that one has to be on there. If not top 3 at the very least. That moment changed everything for WWE. And it changed everything from a whole new perspective. In my opinion, this match was the catalyst, and it was the shot in the arm for the modern WWE match we see today, and the modern stars we see today. I think without this match, you don't have a Daniel Bryan championship win at WrestleMania 30, which was also kind of the result of CM Punk, but that's another story for another day. And you don't see guys on top like Seth Rollins, Adam Cole, all those guys like that, all those indie names that rose from non-homegrown WWE talent. I think this match, maybe not directly, but it kind of indirectly allows for a wider variety of stars and a wider variety of talent. CM Punk was he was the domino, he was the leading domino that started this whole chain of events, and I think this match is the one we have to thank for it. And not just the fact that of the historical purposes of this match, it was a great match. It was absolutely awesome. Not only did CM Punk, reinvigorate his character, his career, and, his entire fan base, you go and like, think of the stage. Sure, it's Money in the Bank. This is a classic B pay-per-view. But fuck, I mean, Money in the Bank is a little bit of a higher status because of this match. Like, this match really helped a lot in the company. But the environment, the whole environment, the fact that this was in Chicago, this was in his hometown, he had the hometown reaction. Everyone was pro CM Punk. Everyone was anti John Cena. And this was a 35-minute old school main event. I think that was just, for my feeble little 14-year-old mind when this match happened, this was just like something I had never, ever seen before. There was so much, there was so much at stake here. And I bought into the whole CM Punk thing. I loved it. He was my new favorite wrestler. He was everything. And this match, I mean, again, from an in-ring standpoint, it's great. Definitely a 5-star match. I don't know if in a vacuum, is this match 5 stars? I don't know. But at that point, who really cares? Because the in-ring action was simply a part of the story, which is how a wrestling match should be, especially a wrestling main event. It should be all these different pieces of the story. Not to mention, the result was correct. I remember in the build to not WrestleMania, Money in the Bank 2011, I remember in the build, there were so many different reactions and so many different predictions as to what they might do. How are they going to fuck over CM Punk? Is he going to win? Is Del Rio going to cash in? Like, what's going to happen? And I thought they played this perfectly. Now, from a match standpoint, would I have preferred the, attempted screw job, John Cena punches John Laurinaitis, and then distraction GTS finish? Whatever, you take what you can get. But in my opinion, it fit well with the storyline. It wasn't like a bad finish or anything. But CM Punk beats John Cena clean in the middle of the ring. The crowd goes crazy. And then you have that, kind of surreal moment of Vince getting on the headset telling Del Rio to get out here. Clearly it was part of the storyline, which is what was really actually very magical about this match is they didn't try to do those classic worked shoots kind of thing where it's like, we're trying to blur the lines of fiction and reality. I knew from start to finish that this was all part of the storyline, but that's what made it even better. It's not like they had to try and oh, you're watching a pro wrestling show and this is someone we don't want to win. Storyline wise, Vince McMahon, the chairman, didn't want him to win because he was going to leave with the title. It all made sense from a storyline standpoint. They didn't have to sell themselves out as a fake wrestling show to try and have you buy in, which is something we see a lot nowadays, which, always comes across as very phony and corny and tacky and really just a lack of trust in your performers. And CM Punk winning the title, he blew the kiss to Vince McMahon and escaped with the title. Everything about this match was just great. And I know it's not the most technically sound match. And it's rather ironic. I know John Cena kind of dominated the 2000s as opposed to the 2010s. His last real, big year was 2015, I would think. But, for as much hate as Cena got, he, in my opinion, had one of the best matches of the decade. And he's not the most technically sound wrestler. And for that matter, neither is CM Punk. I mean, he's better than John Cena, but CM Punk is not the most athletic person in the entire world, especially compared to a lot of the wrestlers we see nowadays. So, coming at number 5, Cena, Punk, Money in the Bank 2011. I know there have been better in-ring matches. I know you could probably name 20 or 30 or 40 or 50. But in my opinion, that match had so much weight behind it and so much energy and so much stake that I couldn't put it in any other spot but on the actual list. So coming in at number 4, we have what is arguably the greatest match of all time. And I think at one point I even called it the greatest match I've ever seen. You know what I'm talking about? Kazuchika Okada versus Kenny Omega, Dominion 6.9. This is the 2 out of 3 falls match where Kenny Omega finally beat Okada and dethroned him after his 720-day title reign. So, literally, I was very hesitant, but I was also tempted to put all 4 Kenny Omega and Kazuchika Okada matches on here because all 4 of them are amazing. And all 4 of them, if you want to say this was the best match of the decade, I will not argue with you because these are some of the greatest matches you will ever see. Many people equate it to the Ricky Steamboat, Ric Flair trilogy, their classic trilogy in 2017. And what was even more amazing from their classic trilogy is that they managed to top it with a grand finale of a match. This is very similar to Punk and Cena in that not only is the match itself great, but everything else around it was perfect. I really can't think of a better storybook ending. I think in hindsight, knowing that Omega was going to leave, by the end of the year, or I mean, the very beginning of 2019, maybe they wouldn't have gone in this direction. I think it might have been a bit more sweeter of a win if Omega's title run hadn't been as, I don't want to say lackluster. It was an okay title run, but again, after Okada's, pitch perfect title reign, were you ever going to capture that magic again? Like, I highly doubt it. But, this was a great, great match. And this is the longest match on the countdown. I think it's about 64 minutes. And, lengthy matches can be really tricky. And what's really great about this is that it had so many things stacked against it. Okada and Omega have proven 3 times that they can have classic matches, regardless of the stage, the stipulation, everything will, no matter what is stacked against them, they will prevail with a great match. And in this scenario, you had 2 big roadblocks that can get in the audience's way of enjoying a match: length and a stipulation that sometimes can be detrimental to your performers, that being a 2 out of 3 falls match. Both of these guys, because they are brilliant, because they are some of the best wrestlers of this generation and of all time, they worked around that so incredibly well. The audience at home and the audience in the crowd hung on to every single move. I loved the use of the 2 out of 3 falls stipulation. Sometimes it's just thrown around like pancakes because, we need a stipulation. 2 out of 3 falls. And like, there are some matches where, people use it well to their advantage. And this match, I think, is like the pivotal 2 out of 3 falls match. This is what all 2 out of 3 falls matches should look like, where each fall has a lot of weight to it and it makes sense. I loved the fact that the first fall was, I believe it was it was Okada getting a roll up. And what was so great about that is they saved the final fall for the one-winged angel. And it's like the whole storyline, the whole 1.5 year long storyline was built around the fact that Okada never kicked out of the one-winged angel. And he never did. And they were able to work around that to the point where when he hit the one-winged angel, I know he hit it at the G1 match, but when he hit it then, it was that classic of will he not kick out. And there was great moments throughout, great action throughout. Everything was built so perfectly. It was so perfectly paced. But the true beauty of the match is the feeling of, like, the duality of feeling you have once that bell rang. I'm sure some people are happy to see Omega win and some people are sad to see Okada lose. And I think for 99.9% of fans, you felt a little bit of both. There was this excitement for Kenny Omega because, he'd finally achieved the ultimate goal. He's the IWGP champion. But then there's also this break of the status quo, very much similar to The Undertaker losing at WrestleMania, maybe to a lesser extent. But there's this duality there of like, I'm really happy to see a changing of the guard, a new champion. But at the same time, it's like Okada was such a great champion. And he was such a figurehead of New Japan. And it's not to say he's gone. I mean, he's champion again. So like, we're back to where we started kind of. But my point of all this is, Okada, we got used as wrestling fans, we got used to Okada being that champion and having that great championship reign. It's not like he was just champion for X amount of days, kind of like a Cena run. Remember that one run Cena had where he was just champion for a year? And like the only thing that was really notable about it was the length. But Okada was the defending champion. He was the champion that always delivered. He was a champion that had great matches. And it's like to see that this duality, this conflict, conflict, I should say. I can't talk today. This conflict of interests where I loved seeing Omega win and seeing Okada lose. It's like a classic changing of the guard. And it's like a classic ending. This is the climax. This is the finish. This is what you want to see in a story arc. The person, Omega slowly got more and more to the IWGP Championship, which is like masterful in the storytelling. He flat out lost at Wrestle Kingdom. He tied at Dominion, and then he won at the G1. And interspersed through all that, he had to do it one more time in a 2 out of 3 falls match. This is when you do those kind of stipulations. So truthfully, this match is just great on so many different levels. And what's really ironic about a lot of these matches on the countdown is the in-ring action is awesome. Like, I'm not taking away from anything from the in-ring action, But I find that all 5 of these matches had some sort of emotional effect. And to me, that's what separates great matches from classics, from matches that can be considered match of the decade. There are so many great matches, so many classic matches that are just really, really good and really awesome and really fun to watch. I think a lot of like Young Bucks matches where I'm not saying, oh, Young Bucks, they don't have psychology. I'm not trying to open up that argument, but like they're like, when I think of like the Young Bucks and Lucha Bros matches, or some of the other like big high spot matches, where it's kind of spot festy, or there's just a lot of cool athletic moves going on. That's all fine and great, and those are great matches, but they don't leave that lasting impression. But all these matches do, and they do it not because, oh, I'm just so invested in these two wrestlers, because truthfully, I'm a big fan of both guys, so I'm obviously going to like their match. But the way the match was orchestrated, it conditions you. That's why you have a good match. It forces you to feel a certain way. That's how art works. It grabs a hold of you. It grabs in your perception, and you see it the way the creator wants you to see it. And in this case, the creator would be the bookers and the wrestlers. So, truthfully, that's what all 5 of these matches had. And this match, particular, had such a great finish because it had one thing beginning and one thing ending, and you wanted to see both, but you didn't want to see both. You know what I mean? Like you knew one had to happen for the other to happen. And oh god, it's so great, and just that dynamic is just perfect, and it's missing in so many modern matches, but this one nailed it, and it got it right out of the park. So coming in at number 3, you'd think that would be the best New Japan match, but we still have a couple more, and we didn't even touch the best Okada match. Coming in at number 3, Kazuchika Okada versus Hiroshi Tanahashi at Wrestle Kingdom 10. January 4th, 2016. So, speaking of stories, you would have to say this is the story of the decade, the rivalry of the decade. I understand that Omega and Okada had probably better matches top to bottom. I mean, that's saying like, gold and silver. You know what I mean? Like Tanahashi and Okada did not have shitty matches. They pretty much got a 5-star classic out of every single match they had. You know what I mean? So you could argue, oh, Kenny Omega and Okada, their in-ring work was a little bit crisper. Like, I get that, okay? But here's the thing. The story of Tanahashi and Okada was flawless. Absolutely flawless. We saw the rise of a new ace over the course of 4 years. Starting with that New Beginning match in 2012 and ending with the 2016 Wrestle Kingdom match. And what a way to finish it off. I mean, you could say that the Wrestle Kingdom 10 match is pretty much every Tanahashi Okada match from the year 2012 to 2016. And I would say, yes, you're probably right to an extent. What you saw between all those matches was Okada progressively getting better and Tanahashi failing to keep up. And the beauty of it is they would throw curveballs. Even though Okada was getting better, there were certain hurdles he had to climb. He couldn't beat Tanahashi on this date. He couldn't beat Tanahashi when Tanahashi was taking him seriously. That's like Dominion 2012. And then it became, well, he couldn't beat Tanahashi when it really counted. And that was Wrestle Kingdom 9 in the Dome. And that's why Okada sold that so well. Like, he was crying because he knows he's better than Tanahashi, but he isn't ready to be the ace. That was the crux of the whole thing. He is the prodigy. He is a great wrestler. He is a winner. Like, he knows all this stuff. But does he have what it takes to be the leader of the company? Because as we've seen from, you could even use this, let's just an example. In-ring skill only takes you so far. Do you have the ability to, in kayfabe, lead a company, in reality, captivate a crowd to the point where you are the figurehead of the company? When they think New Japan Pro Wrestling, they think Kazuchika Okada. Do you have what it takes for that to be a reality? And this match is the crowning moment for Kazuchika Okada, and that's what makes it so damn great. And that's what made Wrestle Kingdom 9 so great. Because you can throw that match on the honor roll as well, because that match is awesome. And I love the ending of Okada. It's such a great image of Tanahashi. Even though he knows his days are numbered, god damn it, he is still the ace. He's still Mr. Tokyo Dome. He is still the big match star. And he's got the title, and Okada's crying. And then come back one more year, and god damn it, the roles have reversed. I love this match. It's awesome. The in-ring skill and the in-ring athleticism of this match is just unreal. But to me, the best part, and like, I've seen this match a couple times, And I was really trying, when I went back and watched a lot of these matches, for this video, I really tried to look with them as critical of an eye as possible. It's like I've seen the match I've seen all these matches a bunch of times. I know what to expect. I'm really trying to look for the little things. And I found one in this match, and what I thought was just what made this match to me, I was like, because there's so many Okada and Tanahashi matches to choose from, for this list. And the Wrestle Kingdom 10 match, I always thought was, oh, that's naturally the best one, but why is it the best one? So I was going back and I was looking for certain spots that thought, that's what makes this match so great. And I found it, and it's the very, very last spot. It's when they're, exchanging their finishers. Tanahashi hits the high fly flow, Okada kicks out, yada, yada, yada. It's when Tanahashi is stuck with the wrist control. Okada's got wrist control, and he's giving him rainmakers. And prior to, earlier in the match and in all their other matches, Tanahashi had a counter for the rainmaker. He would either sling blade him, he would give a rainmaker himself, he'd duck, he'd get out of it somehow. And it's not to say Okada's beaten Tanahashi at this point, but the point is, Tanahashi has had an answer to Okada at some point. And in the final moments of this match, Okada has Tanahashi by the wrist. He's going to give him a rainmaker. And in an act of desperation, Tanahashi just slaps Okada, which I thought was just brilliant. I was like, God damn it, is Tanahashi a fucking genius? You know what I mean? Because the whole point of that slap, it's very much akin to the Shawn Michaels Undertaker match, when Michaels knew he was defeated. Similarly, Tanahashi knows, God damn it, I held on as long as I could. I'm no longer Mr. Tokyo Dome. I'm no longer the ace. This fucker has got me. And all he can do, he knows he's outmatched. He knows he's out-wrestled. The only thing he can do is just a desperation slap. I'm going to try and hold on to this title as long as I can. Title meaning not the IWGP Championship, the ace. Because that's what this match was really about. That's what it really was. Sure, it was for the IWGP Championship, but this was Okada's redemption arc, if you will, for lack of a better term. Because what is New Japan Pro Wrestling but a giant anime? This was his redemption. He came back a year later and squashed his biggest demon. And Tanahashi knew it. He knew he was fucked. And he just said, God damn it, I'm going to slap him and hope for the best. And when it didn't even phase Okada, he just rainmakered him and he got the win. And I thought, God damn it, are they brilliant? These two are the best. And to me, that's what put it over the Okada Omega matches. Because as great as those matches are, and as much as I just praised Okada and Omega when I was talking about it, I thought that is how you tell a story. That is a rivalry for you. That's a modern day classic rivalry. And that's something all other companies need to look to for inspiration, because that is how you book a rivalry. And that's how you book progression. That's how you make a star. Which is, so counterintuitive nowadays, because we just think, oh, if we want to make a star, we just have him featured every single way and, he beats every single person. But it's like, Okada lost along the way. He lost a year prior in the WrestleMania main event. I shouldn't say WrestleMania, Wrestle Kingdom main event. But, it is technically the WrestleMania main event, Japan's version. Even though he lost, it was part of the story. And I think it's so much more effective to see that growth. Because if you just have a top star just winning, I mean, sure, they have to win. They have to be looking like they're strong for people to get behind them, obviously. But there's got to be a weakness. Isn't that a thing with all movies and all stories? You need your main character to have an obstacle, because otherwise, what is there to get behind? So if we want to establish a new ace, we need to have someone that we know we can get behind, and we can see someone who can persevere and be different from the start. The Okada in 2012 was way different than the Okada at Wrestle Kingdom 10. And to me, that's what makes this match so incredibly great. So coming in at number 2, we have Johnny Gargano, Mr. NXT, versus Adam Cole, NXT TakeOver New York, in the 2 out of 3 falls match for the vacant NXT Championship. Earlier in the video, I praised the Gargano-Ciampa trilogy. I thought that was one of the best trilogy of matches I've ever seen. And for a while, that 2018 TakeOver New Orleans match, I was like, that's probably the best NXT match I've ever seen. Little did I know, 2019, they would turn chicken shit into chicken salad and have probably the best chicken salad sandwich I've ever seen on WWE programming. Now, had this been Tommaso Ciampa and Johnny Gargano 4, would this also be on the list? I would think probably, because those two are great. But this match was a whole other level of great. And between all 5 matches I have on this countdown, this one might be, I don't want to say controversial, because I think a lot of people would say, oh yeah, this is a great match. I know some people who might say, okay, this was a great match, but a little excessive. And I might agree with you. Yes, there were a lot of finisher kickouts. Yes, Johnny Gargano practically kicked out. He kicked out of a hot shot, the last shot, the gun shot. Like, he kicked out of pretty much everything. Not to mention, he single-handedly took out the Undisputed Era. I get that. I totally understand that. I totally understand how that can be off-putting, and it can take your believability out of the match. I understand that, but I will try and defend the decision of having Johnny Gargano basically play Super Cena. At the start of the match, when Johnny Gargano came out, this was his title. This was his match to win. This was all about the chase. He had been chasing it for years, and this was his crowning moment. The day before WrestleMania, it's WrestleMania weekend. This was his time, all right? When he came out, though, like when you go back to New Orleans, Johnny Gargano was the 100% unanimous favorite. Everyone hated Tommaso Ciampa. And even though Gargano had shown signs of heel earlier in 2019, and he had aligned himself with Ciampa for a bit, I can only imagine that when the time came for Ciampa and Gargano to have their match, it would be a similar reaction of pretty much 100% Gargano, 0% Ciampa in terms of fan support. But that was not the case here with Adam Cole, because Adam Cole had his fans, and it was split. There were people booing Johnny Gargano. And I don't know if that was the plan going in for Johnny Gargano to look this amazing, but even if it was, even if it wasn't, I have to applaud them for knowing their audience, because by the end, everyone was going crazy for Johnny Gargano, because how can you not love an underdog who overcomes all the odds that were stacked against him? And what was great about the interference from Undisputed Era is that it perfectly gave the audience a perfect opportunity to turn against Adam Cole, because they had seen a classic match. Both guys had a fall. It was sudden death. There was so much at stake here. And there was so much weight behind this title win because we had known what it meant to Johnny Gargano. And to have it all kibosh because of, interference would have been awful. So you have, the audience turn on Adam Cole. And then you have Johnny Gargano go into beast mode and just kick out of everything. And I get that that can be off-putting. I get that it's not believable. I understand that. But in a moment where you are trying to crown a new champion, when you're trying to cap off this 2-year story, when your original plan goes awry, you have to adapt. You have to do something that might not be the most conventional, booking of a match, or might not be the most logical, in order to get the result you want. And what they wanted is this epic title win for Johnny Gargano. And I will say they did a pretty good job in getting there, because by the end, everyone was going crazy for Johnny Gargano. Every single person. And what a great ending sequence. The crowd was going ape shit. The action in this match, yeah, it's great, okay? We already know it's great. All these matches, we already know the in-ring action was awesome. That's not the point here. The point is how masterfully these guys turn the crowd in favor of Johnny and against Adam Cole. It was masterful. It was absolutely just awe-inspiring to see just how much these guys were able to tinker with the crowd like that. How many times do we see a crowd that's so stubborn, especially in WWE, that's so stubborn they're going to cheer for whoever they want to cheer for? Very rarely are they swayed out of that. And by the time, they had their rematch, 2 months later, the crowd was back in Adam Cole's favor, and it was Adam Cole's time to win the championship. The reign of Johnny Gargano was not what's important. It was the title win, because it was such a long chase sequence. And afterwards, we get an epic title win where the entire place goes crazy. I just think this match deserves such a high spot, not only for the athleticism shown, not only for the great in-ring action, not only because these two are some of the best guys we've seen all decade, but this is probably the best example of how to control a crowd. This is exactly what you need to see. And when you want to make your title win mean something, when you want to make a hero, this is how you do it. You have him go in there and be a hero and overcome those odds. Like, that is what you want to see. So I just think this match is just brilliant. I thought it was great. It was, for a while, I thought, this is probably the best match of the decade. But then I had to go back. I had to go back into my memory and think of what match could top this, because there's one. And I honestly don't know if you guys will see this match coming. I don't know. I think all of you will say, oh yeah, that was a great match. But I don't know if you guys will think of it as number one. Before I get to number one, let me explain my reasoning behind putting it at number one. over the course of a couple of years, I went to college. I really felt like, I started to form my identity, which is what most college students do. And when I look back, I've always had a very strong relationship with, my favorite forms of art: wrestling, video games, literature, plays, like all that stuff. And there are things that, after I've experienced them, I'm a different person than when I was before and after. I think the first real thing I think of when, with that idea in mind of like being a different person from beginning to end, the first thing to really do that to me was Catcher in the Rye. The first time I read that book, I just felt different after I finished it, because it was like the first time I really felt like I read something where I understood the character on just a completely different level, and it changed my perception of the world. That's the main thing. It changes your perception of the world. I got that with some of my favorite Shakespeare plays, namely the big three or big four tragedies. King Lear not as much, but Macbeth, Othello, Hamlet, all three of those plays changed my outlook on the world. Toradora, one of my favorite shows, completely changed my outlook on relationships and love and all that stuff. It completely changed my view. Let's see, Persona 5 completely changed how I saw my day, my friends, my social life, and just completely changed how I viewed that. Now, has a wrestling match ever done that to me? I'm sure in subtle ways, yes. But this was the first match I saw where I felt different afterwards. I felt like I had seen something I will never forget. That match is number 1 on this countdown. From the year 2018, we have Hiroshi Tanahashi versus Kota Ibushi in the G1 Climax 28 Finals. I don't know if I'll ever be able to fully describe how much this match means to me and how great I think it is. Because quite honestly, when I look back on it compared to all the other 4 matches that I have on this countdown, there's this huge backstory, this elaborate backstory, this amazing climax of a story. And the story here is very simple. You have your A block winner and your B block winner. But I've never seen a match where everything meant something. I don't know if this match is truly deserving of this number 1 spot, but for me, after I finished it, I thought this was the greatest match I have ever seen. And I don't know if I'll ever be able to fully rationalize why, but I can definitely give you one spot where I was on the edge of my seat. I remember vividly, I woke up at 5 a.m. to watch this match because I knew I could catch it live. I was in my college dorm. It was my senior year. I had just moved in because I was going to start my training for my RA job the next day. I had sat myself down. I was watching the match. And the pivotal moment of this match, the spot I will literally never forget, and the spot that I think makes this match the greatest thing I've ever seen, is that one strike exchange where Tanahashi's in the corner, Kota Ibushi is striking him, and Tanahashi keeps coming forward. And with every slap and with every step Tanahashi takes forward, the crowd becomes more and more invested. You hear them screaming. You hear them getting louder and louder and louder. And it was at that moment where I kind of started to realize, even though, my I don't even know the word I'm looking for here. I'm killing myself here because I had a word perfectly in mind and then I just lost it. My comprehension. Thank you. God damn it. I don't know why I couldn't think of the word. My comprehension of wrestling as just a lifelong fan might not be the level of an actual performer. I get that. But when I saw Tanahashi and Ibushi literally just slapping each other and the crowd literally gushing over it, I thought this is what wrestling is all about. It's about making everything you do worth it. It's about I feel like this match, aside from just entertaining me, from just, giving me an awesome tournament end to a classic tournament, aside from just being a great wrestling match, it taught me something, god damn it. It taught me the art of professional wrestling, god damn it. This match, I just cannot describe to you. It's literally perfect. Every single thing was great. Having the cornermen, Ibushi having Omega in his corner, and Tanahashi having Shibata in his corner. Things like that are classic. And I mean, this match set up perfectly the G1 29, because not only did Ibushi come back to the finals next year and win, but if you look back at the match he had with Tanahashi in the A block, they played off a lot of spots in this match. And I was watching Ibushi beat Tanahashi. So, like, not only was it laid the groundwork for future matches to come, in the next year, but this match was literally perfect. It accomplished everything it needed to do, and it left the crowd literally jaw dropped. They were absolutely in awe of this match. And to me, it's like, aside from just the stakes of the tournament winner, the Tokyo Dome main event, like those are the inherent stakes within this match. But the fact that these two, with the only story being this is the A block winner, this is the B block winner, the only story that's really there is just the stakes of the tournament. But these two were able, through their own merit, through their own ability. And I'm not saying this match was like, just a bunch of punches and kicks. They did a lot of crazy shit. I mean, Tanahashi literally went head first into the post on that lawn dart spot. So these guys did a lot of crazy shit. I'm not saying that this is like, a super tame match. It is not. But the fact that these two were able to get the most out of very little, I just think, like, with all the crazy spots, like, those were great. But the audience was never the same after that strike exchange. And it's getting the most out of very little. And that's what wrestling is all about. And I just remember, as soon as that match was over, I was happy to see Tanahashi win because I wanted to see another Tanahashi Tokyo Dome main event. So I was glad about the result. But I just remember thinking, this is the greatest wrestling match I've ever seen. This is why I watch wrestling. Like, no other match has ever done that. You know what I mean? Where after I turned off my TV, I just had to sit there and think, like, God damn it, that match was great. And I just don't know if I'll ever be able to explain why. But the only thing I know now is that I am a lifelong wrestling fan because of that match. It was me being a wrestling fan was never in doubt. I always knew I was, but like, it was there where I was like, now I feel like I understand it just a little bit more than I did previously. I understand it just a little bit more, and I know I don't know jack shit about wrestling from an in-ring standpoint. I understand that. But from a fan perspective, I just got it a little bit more. So that is why I put it at number 1. Does it deserve number 1? I don't know. Maybe it does. Are there matches better? Probably. Do matches deserve to be on this list that aren't? Yes, you're right. But here's the thing. It's my goddamn list. And this match had the biggest impact on me than any other match I've ever seen. And for that, it's my favorite match. It's the best match I've ever seen. And it is the best match of the decade. And quite honestly, fuck it, the best match of all time. My name is Jerichoholic8704. I'll see all of you guys later.